It's 23 August. It's Sunday. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is a CG Prophecy Report. Truly shocking news. That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. We got some news from Israel here, from the Times of Israel. Ex-Mossad chief says, we toured Iran's Fordo nuclear site many times. The Mossad had toured Fordo nuclear site in Iran. That took some guts. Former Mossad director Yossi Cohen revealed that Israeli operatives have toured Iran's Fordo uranium enrichment facility several times in the past. We toured the Fordo nuclear site many times in order to understand the site, he said, according to Hebrew media outlets, without saying when the visits took place or exactly who toured the site. So they knew the entire layout of this place because they had operatives going in, and unbelievable. It's the kind of thing, it's like James Bond stuff here. The site being bombed by the Americans was the fulfillment of all my dreams, Cohen added. Fordo, along with the Isfahan and Natanz facilities, was severely damaged by U.S. strikes during the 12-day war between Israel and Iran in June 2025. Reports have said the 440 kilograms, which is 970 pounds, of highly enriched uranium stored in the facility was buried, but Israel reportedly believes that Iran managed to transfer some of it to the nearby Pickaxe Mountain site following that war. Cohen also said that 60% enriched uranium is still far from a bomb. You get people saying one side or another. He doesn't seem as concerned about it, appearing to contradict experts such as David Albright, who said 60% enriched uranium can potentially be further enriched to weapons grade in a matter of weeks or even days. So he's disputing that. I would trust the Mossad chief on that one. If people are saying one thing and he says another, he's in charge of ensuring his country is safe and secure. So, from Fox, Israel's new $634 million German-built, anybody? Doomsday submarine gives major boost to Iran deterrence. Israel's taken delivery of its most advanced and expensive submarine from Germany, expanding its fleet amid escalating regional threats. The handover of the INS Drakon is expected to significantly bolster Israel's underwater strike and recon capabilities. Dr. Ehud Elam, an Israeli national security expert and former researcher for Israel's Ministry of Defense, told Fox News Digital that maintaining a continuous undersea presence is paramount for the nation's national survival. Some of them would have to be at sea on high alert around the clock if Iran suddenly attacked Israel in such a way that would cripple the IDF, including its strategic capabilities. In such a drastic scenario, Israel's submarines that would be at sea could respond, measuring more than 230 feet in length, with a displacement exceeding 2,000 tons. The vessel is reported to be the largest submarine constructed in Germany since World War II, carrying an estimated price tag of $634 million. I would assume ours goes up into the high billions. I don't know that, but that's kind of a cheap submarine. I'm talking about money-wise when you're looking at that, but it meets their needs. They're in the area. They've got a submarine that is submerged 24 hours a day. They have it available, and if Iran attacks, Iran could be nuked, and they know that. So this is just another deterrence for what they already have. Saudi Arabia. I've said this before. If they ever attacked Israel, what would be the first thing that Israel could and would do? They would blow up the Kaaba, the big black stone that they all worship. That would end Islam. That would be the end of Islam, and they know that. They know that their religion would end. Egypt. What would be the first thing that Israel would do if Egypt attacked them and they were threatened? Blow up the Aswan Dam. It would annihilate Egypt. All of Egypt is on the Nile River. All of it. If you look at it during the night from a satellite, you will see the lights along the Nile and nowhere else. Everything else is just desert. If they were to push Israel's buttons far enough, Israel would go in and say, that's it, one bomb. One bomb would eliminate the country. So they have their hand on things like this, that the enemy knows these things. And Israel has the upper hand in them because of this. This is another one of those type of nails in the coffin of people attacking them. Let's see here. The INS Dracon's arrival comes as Israel projects increasing military power across distant operational theaters. From the Jerusalem Post, Israel sends 80-person rescue delegation to earthquake-hit Colombia. This was about a week and a half ago, but it's worth reporting because every time something happens in the world, even when Iran had their big earthquake a few years ago, who responded? Israel. They wouldn't allow him in. They said, we don't need their help and all this, but they offered. Nobody ever offers to help America when we have a problem. Nobody ever offers to help Israel when they have a problem, except Greece. Greece did go down during the high fires, and they did help Israel with getting rid of their fires. But usually it's Israel going anywhere. Indonesia has a problem. They say, we'll send people if you want them. Okay, this is the way Israel operates. With representatives from the IDF, the Ministry of Defense, and the MFA, the 80-person delegation took off from Nevatim Air Base and will immediately begin a rescue and assistance mission upon its arrival. According to Home Front Command's Major General Shai Clapper, the main goal of the expedition is to provide immediate life-saving assistance through mapping destruction sites. Prime Minister Netanyahu said an aid delegation would be sent to Colombia after Colombia's President Esparilla requested Israel to do so. What a change from just a couple years ago or even months ago when the liberals were in charge in Colombia, and they probably would have said, we don't want you, or something dumb like that. After Colombia's President Esparilla requested them, he was inaugurated only 4 days before the earthquake, replacing the decidedly anti-Israel Gustavo Petro. De la Esparilla's new administration was expected to renew relations between the countries. In its first week, it pledged to move the Colombian embassy to Jerusalem and recognize the Golan Heights as Israeli territory. Jerusalem Post, here it is. Colombia becomes second country to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. Joining who? The U.S. of A. That's right. We have said that. And, Syria knows they're not getting that back. They do know that. They have not made a big stink about it. They have mentioned recently that they want it back and all this. But officially, they have never come out and said that because they know they have no right to it. They overthrew the government. It was a standing government that had a beef with Israel, but when that government ended, that also ended any beef with Israel over the Golan Heights. They are a new government without a right to claim that territory any longer, and because of that, they know they have no standing. Anyway, times of Israel. Israel and Venezuela renew consular relations for the first time since 2009. After a 17-year diplomatic break, countries say they will reestablish ties, continue cooperation stemming from Israel's humanitarian mission after deadly June double earthquake. So there you go. Israel is finally getting its foot back into Latin America because of, anybody? Donald Trump. Got some news from Christianity today. Christian Times, the Jews for Jesus Cafe caught in a battle over the Sabbath. I put this in, and then there were more problems, which I'll mention at the very end of this article. Yoel Ben David peered out the window of Cafe Basimta, the coffee shop he manages in central Jerusalem, to see about 30 ultra-Orthodox Jews protesting outside. This is a Jews for Jesus coffee shop. They are open on Saturday because they are Jews for Jesus. Thank you. So they understand that Jesus Christ is the fulfillment of the Sabbath. It says explicitly in the Bible several times, but in Hebrews 4, verse 3, it says, now we who have believed do enter that rest. And he's speaking about there all the way through, I believe, chapter 7, what the rest of God means in relation to redemptive history. It is all fulfilled in Jesus. If you're in a Sabbath-observing church, you're wasting your time and you're offending Jesus' fulfillment of that command. Okay? People try to backdate it before the Ten Commandments because it's obvious Jesus fulfilled the law. But if you go through Exodus 16, where the Sabbath is mentioned, there's an article. Sometimes there isn't an article before it. And it's very clear that the Sabbath was never observed, ever. The pattern given in the Genesis account doesn't mandate anything. The people of the world did not observe the Sabbath, and that's clear from Exodus 16. But it was a pattern of redemptive history to come, the 6 days plus the final day of rest, which is the 6,000 years of man's reign on earth, followed by Christ's reign, the rest of Christ in the millennium. So you need to get that right if you are in a Sabbath-observing church. You are not honoring God. You are dishonoring the cross of Christ who fulfilled the Sabbath. But that's just a side issue compared to what the Jews for Jesus are going through right here. It's inside customers drank lattes and ate croissants. He had a croissant this morning. Issue is the coffee shop operating on the Sabbath, which many ultra-Orthodox Jews, also known as Haredi Jews, believe violates the fourth commandment. Well, if you're under the law of Moses, which they are, then it does violate the law of Moses. But the law is fulfilled in Christ. It is obsolete. It is nailed to the cross. It is set aside according to Hebrews and Colossians 2, verse 14. So, having said that, they are still under the curses of the law. That's why they've been going through the past 2,000 years of misery. Until they come to Christ, they are obligated to the law of Moses. And so they're going through this and they're trying to earn their way to heaven, which has already been opened by the shed blood of Jesus on the cross of Calvary. So all of these things we're seeing in Israel that seem like little annoyances to the people of Israel are actually a part of the prophetic timeline that God has set forth in his word. Daniel 9 gives us the timeline telling us when Jesus would come, what would happen in their rejection of him, when the Antichrist is coming, how long the covenant will be for, etc. All these things are laid out in the Bible, so I would suggest you pick it up, read it, and believe what it says. God is telling us in his word, and because he's God, he cannot lie, there's no error in his word, that these things have happened, are happening, and will come to pass. While other hotels and restaurants in the neighborhood also remain open on Saturdays, Cafe Basimta, which is run by Jews for Jesus, is one of the few coffee shops to do so. The protests are the latest example of a long-standing pattern in Jerusalem where some ultra-Orthodox Jews are pressure tactics, demonstrations, and occasional vandalism to persuade businesses and even parking lots to close on Saturdays. And then just from the Times of Israel, door to Jerusalem cafe open on Shabbat is vandalized as Haredim protests for the 7th week. So this has been going on now for 2 months. They went in and they glued the lock shut so you can't get your key in there and so they can't open, right? Well, that's kind of childish, but that's what they do, because they think that they are like Nehemiah in the Old Testament, bringing back the law and the worship of the Lord in the proper manner, when in fact they've missed the ball for 2,000 years. They miss Jesus, and therefore they are working contrary to God, not in accord with him. If you don't believe that, read the book of John. Jesus talks to the Pharisees and the Sadducees about their position before the Lord. Your father is not God. Your father is the devil. That's right. He is the devil. Okay, they have rejected God's offer of salvation. So all of these things are interesting because they point to Israel's relationship with God right now, which is a contrary relationship. And people say, well, then they're out. The church has replaced them, and no, that's not it at all. You can't conflate the two issues. One is that they are not right with the God. They are not God's people right now. They are lo ami, according to Hosea and Paul's writings of Romans 9 through 11. That does not negate that they will be, again, ami, which the Bible is very clear. They will be ami. That will be after the church is taken, raptured. That's right. So you need to understand these things in the proper timeline in order to know what God is doing. If you don't get the timeline right because you believe in a mid-trib rapture, and that's because you've taken your theology out of Matthew, Matthew is not Jesus giving information about the rapture, ever. The day and hour, nobody knows the day and hour, has nothing to do with the church. Okay? He is speaking to Israel under the law about things that will happen to them while they are under the law in the end times. Okay, if you want proper rapture theology, you will get to the right dispensation, which is the dispensation of, that's right, grace, okay? And that is Paul's writings, okay? You go to Romans 2, Philemon, and you'll get the epistles, which will give us that instruction. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15, behold, I show you a mystery. That's right. And when he shows us a mystery, that means it is something that has never been shown before. So Jesus could not have been speaking about the rapture because Paul is revealing the rapture to us. Okay, so that's, I show you a mystery, and he tells us about the rapture, and then in 1 Thessalonians, he describes the rapture, the process, and who is going at what time, and then in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, he gives us the exact timeline of what's going to come about. And that is very clearly a pre-tribulation rapture. You cannot make a mistake in that if you get rid of the wrong theology of inserting the words of Jesus, which have nothing to do with the rapture. So we're going through Matthew right now, verse by verse, and in another, sometime early next year, we will be in Matthew 24. It may even be before that. And while we are going through there, you will see exactly what he is speaking about when he is addressing Israel on the, the Olivet Discourse and those type of things. It's all very clear. But if you follow every day with the Matthew commentary, which is posted one verse a day on the Superior Word website, just look at daily writings, you will be able to follow along with what God is doing in the book of Matthew so that you can understand redemptive history more clearly. A little long there, sorry about that, but I want people to understand it. If you're thinking wrong theology, your theology is wrong. Gateway Pundit, brave Iranian Christian Sharia survivor goes berserk on McKinney City Council over proposed Islamic center. He needs to be recognized. Eddie Issa, an Iranian-born Christian and self-described Sharia law survivor, stood before the packed meeting and told the council exactly what soft Westerners refused to hear. I'm a Sharia law survivor from Iran, he declared. I'm telling you, this is a bad idea and you're going to regret it. Not listening to people like us who have lived under Sharia law. It's like the left. We got to have all the socialism, right? They ignore the people that lived under socialism, like the Cubans that understand what's going on. They just ignore them. They don't know what they're talking about. And then they bring in their socialism and they're going to destroy the beacon of hope in the world, which is the United States of America, because they're numbskulls. They have meat for brains. Anyway, I'm here to tell you this is a dangerous ideology you're allowing in your country. Every country that is Islamic now, it used to be a Christian country, and we were soft Christians. And we allowed these people to come in, bring in their Sharia law into our countries, and slowly kill us off left and right. He continued without apology. Let me make it very clear to you. Christianity is a personal relationship with God. Islam is Sharia law, religion and state, which is not even compatible with the American thing. And when these people will lie to you to manipulate you, because whenever Islam is little, they will lie to you and tell you they come in peace. This is level 1. Level 2 is what's happening in the United Kingdom right now, where you have your two-tier policing, where you have the blasphemy laws, Islamophobia, racism, and all this nonsense that they talk about. Anytime you criticize Islam, they will use the race card. But every country has this disgusting ideology inside their country, including my own country, Iran. Islamophobia is another made up of, and I can't tell you what he says because it's a bad word, bull something, because they don't want you to criticize their death cult. If you question that disgusting book, they get killed over it. Just like my friends were apostates, imprisoned, or dead right now in Iran. Isa's first-hand testimony cut through the usual script. He wasn't speaking from a campus seminar or a cable news panel. He lived it. He watched soft Christian societies open the door and only to watch the ideology tighten its grip until dissenters, apostates, and Christians were silenced, imprisoned, or worse. The McKinney Islamic Association sought approval for a larger campus on roughly 5.55 acres along Virginia Parkway near residential neighborhoods and a high school. Plans include a sanctuary, educational spaces, gymnasium, and capacity for thousands. Might be 55.5. They got a dash in there. Anyway, after hours of heated public comment with hundreds packing the chambers and overflow areas, the city council voted 7-0 to approve the site plan. Never mind that you have an expert standing right there telling you this is a very bad idea. Council members framed the decision as largely procedural, saying the revised plan met technical requirements under existing zoning. ISA's warning stands in stark contrast to the sanitized narrative pushed by activists and some local officials. Survivors of the Islamic Republic do not get the luxury of pretending this is just another house of worship. They watched Christian and secular societies in the Middle East and elsewhere slowly lose ground after the same promises of peace and coexistence. Afghanistan, go look at pictures of Afghanistan in the 70s. Women walking around with dresses on, they'd go to the beach and they'd have on bikinis. You can't see a woman's face in that country any longer. They are not allowed to go to school. They cannot have any say in anything that has to do with any government entity. They are shut out completely. That is what will happen in the United States of America and everywhere else in the world if Islam takes that country. That is the inevitable result. That's some news from the Middle East and Africa today. Zero Hedge. Outrage as Texas schools bus kids to mosque so they can experience Islam. Texas, right? Outrage has exploded as public school students in Texas were loaded onto yellow school buses, taxpayer expense, by the way, and driven straight to an Islamic center so they could experience Islam up close. The organizers could barely contain their excitement. In their own promotional video, they celebrated how the kids showed up and potentially left transformed. This is not happening in some blue state sanctuary city. This is Texas. The Muslims who run the mosque are ecstatic with how many kids are showing up to possibly be converted. Now, just so you know, these are Hispanic Muslims. Believe it or not, Islam is very strong in the Hispanic population. The reason why this is so is because the Hispanics have been under what for hundreds of years? Catholicism. Catholicism doesn't work. Their children are being raped, but they don't want to deviate too far from control of their lives. And so what do? They make the logical step from Catholicism to Islam. It's the same thing that happened in New York City. New York City, they had Catholics that were being raped, and, they finally realized we're giving our money to a bunch of perverts in the Catholic Church. And so what did they convert to? Does anybody remember this? Mormonism. I'm just going to go from bondage to bondage, right? This is what happens when you have bad theology to start with and you're not willing to pick up your Bible and read it. That is what is the inevitable result. So these are Hispanic Muslims that they went over to. Over 30 high school students from Humble ISD's Kingwood High School and Adasocita High School were taken on a school day field trip to the Centro Islamico, operated by Islam in Spanish in the Houston area. The visit included a tour, lunch from halal food trucks, observation of midday prayer, and a presentation. Anyway, you get the point. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will tell you that my friend Jose, who goes all over the world, he goes everywhere if there is something going on, Super Bowl or FIFA or whatever you call it, that where they kick the ball around, if there is a presidential inauguration, if there is something happening in France, wherever something big is happening in the world, he either drives to or flies to, and he stands outside and hands out tracts about Jesus. He's been doing this now for 40 years. And he says, I have seen more Islam and more Muslims handing out tracts about Islam in the past year than I've ever seen in my life. They are making inroads in the United States of America because people are not waking up to what's going on in the world. Breitbart. Azerbaijan's president, Aliyev, marks 1 year. 1 year of Trump brokered Armenia peace, says the U.S. ties are at the highest point in 34 years. Azerbaijani President Aliyev marked the first anniversary of Trump's historic peace breakthrough between Azerbaijan and Armenia. They've been fighting, killing each other for eons. And Trump walked in and he made it possible within a month for all of that to end, and they've been at peace since then. He credited Trump with ending the 3 decades of conflict while declaring U.S.-Azerbaijani relationship have reached their highest point in the 34 years of diplomatic ties. Through your determination and steadfast resolve, you succeeded in bringing an end to a conflict that had endured for 3 decades, laying the foundation for an era of reconciliation and mutual beneficial partnership between our peoples. Aliyev wrote. Aliyev and Armenian Prime Minister Pashinyan joined Trump at the White House last year for the landmark summit, where the 2 countries' foreign ministers initialed the peace agreement and the 3 leaders signed a joint declaration intended to close the chapter on decades of conflict in the South Caucasus. They never liked each other. They were warring all along, but this is 30 years of declared war. And Trump was able to just in a month get rid of it. Aliyev said that the agreement has already produced tangible results, pointing to the lifting of restrictions on cargo shipments to Armenia, the start of Azerbaijani petroleum exports to the country, and the movement of grain and other goods through Azerbaijan. We are already witnessing the tangible dividends of peace in the economic, trade, and other spheres. We continue our efforts to consolidate these gains, translate peace into practical cooperation, and foster an atmosphere of mutual trust. Trump and Aliyev also spoke by phone to commemorate the anniversary, with both leaders noting that peace has held over the past year without incidents undermining the agreement. The two leaders discussed the growing trade between Azerbaijan and Armenia and progress on the Trump route for international peace and prosperity, the major transportation corridor envisioned under the Washington Agreement to connect mainland Azerbaijan with its Nakhchivan enclave through Armenia, while opening a broader trade route across the South Caucasus. Good job, President Trump. AP, former Syrian President Assad sentenced to death in absentia for war crimes. And I'm waiting. I know it's coming soon. I'm going to get an article right up from the AP, and it's going to say former President Assad flies to Syria to have his death sentence executed. I know it's coming. I know it is. Hasn't happened yet, though. Mongolia, climate home. Will the world's drying lands get relief from COP17 in Mongolia? Okay, they're having, listen, about 10,000 government negotiators, scientists, journalists, and campaigners will gather at a purpose-built venue in a national park in Mongolia's capital, Ulaanbaatar, to discuss how to stop turning into desert as the world warms. 10,000 people that could have sat at home on a Zoom meeting and talked to each other have to go to Mongolia, the most remote place on the planet, and fly there. Billions of tons of carbon footprint being put out into the sky to save the world. That ought to tell you something right there. That ought to tell you right there. The planet's climate is heating up. No proof of that, but this year it's going to get really hot because of El Nino, which has been happening for billions of years. Well, it couldn't have because Earth hasn't been here that long. But anyway, El Nino, it's a recurring cycle. They said last year this is going to be the worst El Nino in eons, maybe the worst ever. But as soon as it starts happening and we get these rains in Florida that go on like they did 8 or 10 years ago, remember the El Nino that came through and it rained every single day, and you're just like, oh, is it ever going to stop? They're going to say, see, this is global warming, when it's a natural cycle that has been happening every couple of years forever. Okay, anyway, the planet's climate is heating up mainly due to humans burning fossil fuels and drying out its land. Do you know why? I've asked this every time and I keep getting these blank stares. I don't want any more blank stares. I want somebody to answer me. Why is there desertification in Mongolia?
Oh, the sheep.
The sheep, that's right, the Kashmir sheep. They're very destructive on fragile environments, but they make a lot of money for the Mongols. And so what do? They raise more Kashmir sheep. That's right. And then they keep eating more and more, and there's desertification. I'm glad you people listen. Thank you for that. This kills plants and exposes the soil, which can then be blown away. No, it's not the heat, it's the sheep, but they don't admit that. Negotiations will begin mostly behind closed doors for 2 weeks. Closed doors. They're having closed-door meetings to tell us how to run our lives. And then from WCC, which is the World Council of Churches, guess what? World Council of Churches at the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, COP17. What is the World Council of Churches doing there? What do they have to do with this? Right? They get a free trip to Mongolia at church expense. They get to write everything off. It's 501c3, and then they burn a bunch of fossil fuels to get there. Makes total sense to me. Daniel 12 Technology from Euromaiden. Russians work 3 shifts to build jet-powered missiles powered by a $16,000 Chinese engine from AliExpress. You want to buy a Chinese engine, jet engine? You can buy it right on AliExpress. $16,000 and you can build your own jet airplane, right? Okay, our missiles cost millions of dollars. And that's why about 3 weeks ago, I read you that article that Trump wants to cut all of that out and have missile production at the base cost. It doesn't matter if they hit within 3 feet or not. If they hit within 30, it still does the same thing. And he's saying we need to think smarter. Guess what Russia's doing? $16,000 engines. That's less than $1 million, isn't it? Okay, Russia's turning out its cheap Banderol drone cruise missile at scale. Russia is capable of producing up to 80 jet-powered weapons a month. 80 for us would take a year and a half. The production figures sharpen a threat Ukraine has tracked as the Banderol expands. The missile is relatively short range, that's okay, 500 kilometers, so Russia effectively launches it from Crimea at Odessa. It means Russia can sustain and grow the Banderol strikes on Ukraine's south, a weapon whose ground launcher Ukraine recently found could let Russia fire it without warning and in salvos. The Banderol was developed and is made by the Russian company Kronstadt, which sounds German to me. Anyway, reaching a maximum speed of 620 to 650 kph and cruising at 520 to 560 with a fragmentation high explosive warhead of 114.3 kilograms. That's a big one. That's 250 some pounds, of which 49.5 kilograms is explosive. Its range dictates where it is used. At about 500 kilometers, it cannot reach far into the Ukraine, which is why Russia fires it from occupied Crimea at Odessa, using the peninsula's proximity to strike the southern port city that has borne so much of Russia's missile campaign. Banderol's jet propulsion allows speeds that Ukrainian mobile fire teams cannot match with standard ground-based machine guns. Countering the missile requires systems like the Gepard that can track fast-moving targets. The 80 a month figure comes at a cost in effort and imports. Ukraine's war and sanctions portal documented over 20 foreign-made components and approximately 20 microchips of foreign origin from 30 different companies in the missile's construction. So they got stuff coming from all over the world, mostly China, but from all over the world to put these things together for, we'll say by the time it's done, we'll say $25,000. That's a lot cheaper than millions of dollars, right? With the Chinese Swinwin SW800 Pro jet engine available on AliExpress for $16,000. You want a jet engine, just order it. They'll send it to you, AliExpress. It's a dangerous world, including the inevitable plagues noted in the book of Revelation. From LifeSite News, medical boards banned from punishing doctors who reject government COVID narrative. They've been trying to punish these people in California for 6 years now. They are now no longer allowed to do that. A California judge has forbidden medical boards from investigating, prosecuting, accusing, or sanctioning doctors based on the viewpoint of the information, recommendations, or advice they give a patient about COVID-19, including their departure from the position of the public health authorities, which we saw was all a lie. Fauci, I don't know if you've seen the things that he was lying about. This harms, it kills unborn children, and he wouldn't report it. They've got his phone. It's been reported in the Congress openly. That's why he did not admit anything. We have all kinds of damage from that guy. Many people died because of him. And because he got an auto pen pardon, they can't do anything. While the ruling technically applies to only 3 doctors who were plaintiffs in the Corey versus Bonta, according to their attorney, Richard Jaffe, the judge's orders puts the boards on notice that a federal judge has found their COVID misinformation policy unconstitutional under the First Amendment. Every investigator and every board member now knows how this judge sees it. Any board employee who opens or continues a COVID misinformation investigation from here on is doing it with a federal injunction and a federal ruling on the record, and with no ability to say later that nobody told them. U.S. District Judge William B. Shub ordered not only California's Attorney General, but also the Medical Board of California and the Osteopathic Medical Board, as well as anyone acting on their behalf, to stop investigating us, stop persecuting us, stop harassing us. Most importantly, stop threatening our licenses over any professional opinions we might share with our own patients about COVID-19, the vaccines, ivermectin, anything. The judge's orders make an important distinction. Medical boards are not prevented from investigating, prosecuting, or disciplining doctors for actual fraud or negligent treatment. They can do that, but if it's what they did during COVID, they stood against the supposed science, they cannot be prosecuted because it was not science. That has been proven true. We've got a person sitting in this church right now whose sister gave up her career to stand on the side of freedom of, your right to medicine with your doctor. And she started her own practice. She is succeeding at it, but she paid a cost for that. The other doctors that she worked with all caved. They all went the way of the dodo, and now they are the ones that should be prosecuted for doing what they did. Anyway, CNN. New Mexico judge orders Meta to pay $567 million into a child mental health fund. Meta, they're destroying little kids' brains. Epic Times, Ebola cases surpass 4,000 in Congo. Breitbart, 2025 are dead. Okay, so you've got 4,000 with Ebola, 2,325 are dead. That's more than 50% death rate. Okay, Fox, beachgoers warned after deadly flesh-eating bacteria kills 5 in southern state. Parade magazine, Florida confirms second death from Vibrio vulcanificus, I guess the flesh-eating bacteria. So they've got it in southern states. I think it was Louisiana where the 5 died, but we've had a couple right here in Florida. Got to watch out for that stuff. New York Post, Fauci privately warned, here it is, of miscarriage risk linked to COVID vaccine while publicly claiming no issues, newly released tech shows. They have his words spoken and typed to people, and they can't do anything about it. He cannot be prosecuted because of a fake auto pen pardon. Euro News. Drought declared in almost 3/4 of England, UK, government says. 3/4. Imagine that. Fox. Dangerous drug-resistant fungus spreads across the U.S., reaching 27 states. This is one I bring up all the time when it's highlighted because it's very dangerous. California accounts for roughly 1/4 of C. auris cases, posing antimicrobial resistance threat. That's because people take, antibiotics. They don't complete the course. They become immune to whatever they had. I'm talking about the things that didn't get killed. And so the next time you take the antibiotics, it won't hurt them. And so you get a worse strain. And it keeps growing and growing and growing until pretty soon, because people don't take their antibiotics through the full course, or they just keep them in their cabinet and they have like a footache. And so my foot hurts. They go and get a antibiotic. They take one, and all that does is it causes these things to grow an immunity against the antibiotic. Be careful taking antibiotics. If you take them, take the entire course. Never take them unless you are taking a course of them. Other news. White House. ICYMI. Violent crime keeps falling in the biggest U.S. cities. A new mid-year crime report delivers more clear proof President Trump's law and order agenda is crushing violent crime across the U.S., across America. Now, this is the cities that have allowed him to go in and take care of things. The ones that haven't have had their crime continue to go up, 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 up. So this is only where Trump has said, we need to correct this. They've been saying, okay, come on in and do it. And they have had great success. Homicides in the nation's largest cities are down 17.2% from the first half of the year, alongside sharp declines in robberies, rapes, aggravated assaults, and other violent crime. That translates to nearly 14,200 fewer reported violent crimes in just 6 months. The results are especially striking in Democrat-run cities where the Trump admin has aggressively surged federal resources and National Guard support after years of soft-on-crime failure. In Washington, D.C., homicides are down 43.9%. In Memphis, homicides are down 43.7%. In New Orleans, homicides are down nearly 25%. Those cities asked for help. He gave it to them, and they are having reductions in crime never seen in the history of America. This builds directly on last year's already historic progress, when murders and other violent crime plummeted to levels not seen in more than a century, and is the latest in a mountain of data, all pointing to the same unmistakable reality. The Council on Criminal Justice finds the national murder rate is on pace to hit the lowest level in at least 126 years, while crime data analyst Jeff Asher reports the 2026 murder rate is tracking to be by far the lowest ever recorded. This is the Trump effect in full force. And then from WUSA, Trump admin touts more than 16,000 arrests as the federal surge in D.C. reaches its first year. D.C. alone, 16,000 people that have committed violent crimes are now in prison. From the AP, ICE plans to give, this is shocking news, truly shocking news. ICE plans to give officers gloves that can deliver painful electric shocks. Yes, ICE plans to spend up to $20 million to purchase thousands of conductive distraction and de-escalation devices for officers and agents by March. The devices are known as the GLOVE, which stands for Generated Low Output Voltage Emitter, and are manufactured by Compliant Technologies of Lexington, Kentucky. They have been used in recent years by some jails and police departments. Jeff Nicholas, the founder and CEO of Compliant Technologies, wrote, "Unfortunately, we are unable to speak on this subject." Civil rights activists expressed alarm at the plan, saying ICE officers already face criticism for their use of force with little oversight or accountability. That's not true. That is completely untrue. That is a lie. Compliance says the devices function as a normal pair of patrol gloves until, just like you got one of those things and you shoot them with it, the zappers, right? Taser. Same thing. You have to turn on the gloves. They switch to activate their electric mode. The gloves must be applied directly to someone's skin to deliver a pain stimulus that typically helps an officer gain compliance within seconds. Instead of shooting them with a taser, you use your gloves. It's much more effective. It's something that is not harmful to people, and they will become compliant. From the Washington Times. Democrats give abolish ICE slogan a hard look as a formal policy position. At the DNC summer meeting in Austin, a policy panel voted to advance a resolution to abolish ICE. The vote followed a heated debate over whether the resolution should include the word abolish. The word pro-abolish Democrats won the day. The resolution, known as Resolution 27, passed out of the committee in an overwhelming 25-12 vote after members argued about a proposed amendment to replace the word abolish with the word restructure. The amendment was withdrawn. The skirmish over abolish ICE underscores the increasing tension in the party between establishment Democrats and far-left insurgents. It's all the same. They're all the same. They just try to make it sound like we're okay and they're not, and vote for us and we'll get rid of them. That will never happen because the Democrat Party of the United States has been sold out to communism since the early 60s. We know that. I've read that many times in this report. We do not need an agency who treats all individuals of my skin color and darker like criminals just for existing. It's totally biased. Please join me and 76% of Democrats that support abolishing ICE, said Michelle Johnson, a DNC member from Louisiana who sponsored the Abolish ICE resolution. She described the modern immigration force as a monster offspring of its predecessor, the INS. DHS and ICE were created in response to 9/11. Prior to this, there were not children in cages or citizens murdered in the street by INS. Who put the children in the cages the first time? Obama. For the entire period, he was caging children. They just take the narrative and they lie. They turn it over and they lie constantly. The opponents of the abolish ICE language insisted they want to dramatically overhaul ICE and end President Trump's immigration policies. They just wanted to shy away from the rhetoric that backfired on Democrats in the past, such as abolish the police. Whoops, that didn't go over so well. The post-millennial. Judges rule against Trump admin over ICE detention expansion 16,000 times in the past year as cases swamp immigration courts. They are actively 16,000 times coming against Trump's policies. 16,000. Breitbart. DOT Secretary Sean Duffy makes English a permanent requirement for nation's migrant truckers. You come to America and you want to be a trucker? You got to speak English. Today, I am proposing to lock English proficiency rules into the federal regulations for good. So no future admin can ever undo them. Barack Obama weakened this rule and allowed illegal truckers onto our highways, but that is not happening again. Over 26,000 unqualified drivers have already been pulled off the road. Get ready for many, many more. Duffy's ex-post also contained a video of an official asking a trucker to identify U.S. road signs. This is a trucker in a giant truck driving down your highway. But the trucker is unable because he cannot read English. With the rule codified into law, future admins could not weaken the rules like the Obama administration did in 2016, which allowed unqualified drivers to remain on U.S. roads. That's why we've had so many deaths over the past 4 years, especially, is because the Biden administration not only didn't do anything on the Obama rule, they promoted it. And we had people dying up and down highways because of illegal aliens. Guardian, this is the coolest thing in the world. This is so cool. This guy just lies in bed at night and he thinks of stuff to come up with. This is The Guardian. It's a left-wing magazine, okay? Here we go. Greenland issues strong warning as Trump-linked oil firm prepares to drill. An American oil company connected to Donald Trump is preparing to sink wells in remote Greenland despite not having permission from the local authorities. As U.S. President renews his threats to claim the vast Arctic territory, materials to prepare for drilling were brought ashore in recent days on Greenland's eastern coast. That has prompted Greenland's government to issue a strong warning that no approval had been granted to land the kit. All future logistical matters must be advised and approved by the Mineral Resources Authority before they can be carried out. This is them saying it to Trump. 2 days later, Trump made his latest menacing post on Truth Social, showing himself looming over a Greenlandic village. Executives of Greenland Energy, a Texas company set up last year, have claimed that $1 trillion of crude may lie beneath the Jameson Land region. They announced plans to spend $60 million drilling 2 wells to find out. Although Greenland stopped issuing new oil licenses in 2021 on environmental grounds, a UK company called 80 Mile had secured exploration rights in Jameson Island. Greenland Energy's corporate filings say it will take a majority stake in the project, so they already have approval. Now, these people are going in and buying the approval from the people in Europe, right? They can't do anything about it. And they're making it look like Trump is an offender when he's just using the law. Okay, Greenland Energy has retained Dr. Phil, a prominent right-wing former chat show host, to serve on Trump's Religious Freedom Commission to make a documentary series that will capture the mission of these modern-day wildcatters. It has also appointed as a director a U.S. Navy veteran who is working on Golden Dome, the missile defense plan for which Trump says controlling Greenland is vital. After a company representative falsely claimed at a Jameson Land community meeting in June that it had permission to land drilling equipment. Sweat said, "Our enthusiasm for the project led us to communicate in a way that created confusion. But the next month, local people in the sparsely populated region noticed a tug pulling a barge shorewards and unloading a dozen containers. The goal was to get the equipment on shore at Nunap Keka, which is Jameson Land, in connection with planned oil exploration drilling." The Danish investigative outlet Danwatch quoted the head of the shipping company as confirming the delivery was for the Greenland Energy. A letter it sent to shareholders on Thursday said recent high-level meetings between project leadership and Greenlandic regulatory and oversight authorities have been constructive, and we continue to be encouraged by the progress being made toward the remaining approvals required for drilling. It said that after those discussions, just 1 well would be required for drilling. 1 well would be drilled to begin with. As a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark, decisions about Greenland's natural resources rest with elected local leaders who now face a delicate decision. They could grant permission for oil drilling, even though the planned wells appear to fall within a conservation area protected by the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, or they could refuse and, some worry, give Trump a pretext to advance his imperialist agenda. This is all left-wing magazines saying these things, right? The Greenland government statement said it would not be proportionate to demand the equipment be removed. They're all in agreement with this. Why? Because there's $1 trillion worth of oil sitting under them that they want to benefit from. They own that land. And so they are saying, well, we can't do it. They're saying they don't want it, but at the same time, they want it. Right? An application for permission remained under processing. A Greenland energy representative has said a vessel carrying its 300 shipping containers of drilling equipment is set to sail from Canada on 12 September. Sinking the wells would begin in October. Jeff Landry, the hard-right Louisiana governor serving as Trump's Greenland envoy, has said Greenland could be pumping oil next year. And they're all happy about it up there, but they're saying they're not happy about it to make sure that people think that Trump is the devil when they're getting money from him. He's just the most brilliant man. He just thinks off the top of his head, and he is almost always right in his thinking. Almost always. Zero Hedge, GOA members make history with first suppressor transfers without an NFA registration since 1934. Gun owners of America can now transfer silencers. I say it's the sweet sound of silence. You know how I'm going to tell you this and then I'll read you an article next week. I can't contain myself. I'll put it in next week's just to read it to you. They passed the law with the big, beautiful bill about the fees that they're charging you for gun, which is against the law. It's against the Second Amendment. Everybody knows that, but they've been doing it since 1934. They said no more fees. And the entire law was based on the fees. Because there are no more fees, the law cannot be upheld, and so they now have freedom of gun trading and selling of any of these types of guns that have been prohibited, not because there's anything wrong with them. A silencer doesn't silence. It just protects the ears of the people shooting it. The issue is that the government was raking billions of dollars illegally from citizens and harming their ability to exercise their First Amendment, Second Amendment rights. Okay, that's what's been going on all this time. That's ended now. Who said it? No, it will make war impossible.
Democrat.
Well, he probably was, but listen to this. Hiram Maxim, inventor of the machine gun, in response to the question, will this gun not make war more terrible? No, it will make war impossible. Well, that's a guy that didn't know very much. Okay, I got a lesser here for you. There is nothing that shows a jerk love like the Iceman's electrified glove. Some say it's a crock to give protesters shock, but I doubt you hear the same from above. Okay, a couple ironies and we are done. This one is funny, and they actually got it on, they're in the cop thing, filming it. The cops lost him. So it's just funny. Mail Online, high-speed chase through the streets of L.A. pauses as police allow driver to stop for gas before continuing his 100-mile-an-hour pursuit. Yes, and Mail Online. Yeah, this is funny too. Mail Online, female anti-violence activist is arrested for a knife attack on another woman in a Philadelphia train. She's anti-whatever violence, but she's stabbing people on trains. That's a Democrat. Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.